Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing, if in doubt, don't reach out. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing, if in doubt, don't reach out. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need the right strategy. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 reasons why, if in doubt, you shouldn't reach out. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is you are respecting their decision. Now let me know in the comments if you have a desire to text your ex right now. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. And as I said, we're talking about point number 1, you are respecting their decision. And this is in connection to today's podcast of, if in doubt, don't reach out. And this is where we have to really consider what that means. Now, if in doubt, so that obviously means that you're not sure whether this is the right move, whether this is the right thing you should be doing. There is, of course, as we say, doubt in your mind. Now let's consider what that actually relates to in real life. Now maybe perhaps you have left your work laptop at your ex's house. This is an example I like to give. You left your work laptop at your ex's house and you're now thinking, well, they've dumped me, but I need my work laptop. What do I do? Well, this shouldn't give you any doubt. You need your work laptop. You need it to work, okay? So therefore, even though you have been dumped, even though your ex-dumper may have said, I don't want to ever speak to you again, or whatever it is that they have said during the breakup, if you need your work laptop, it is your possession, you need it to work, you're entitled to reach out and request it back. That is something which shouldn't give you doubt. That is something which is logical, okay? And this is what we need to try and do. And I appreciate it's difficult during the breakup experience because you're not necessarily thinking with a stable mindset, but we need to separate necessary from unnecessary. If you need your work laptop, that is necessary, and therefore it is necessary contact which is needed. However, if there is an example such as you're thinking, did I leave a pair of my socks at my ex-dumper's house? A pair of socks which just cost me a few dollars, a few pounds, a few euros, a few whatever. Okay, something which has no real monetary value. It has no sentimental value. You have another 100 pairs at home. Okay, do you really need to reach out to your ex-dumper to try and get your socks back? Let's think of it logically. The reality is you don't. The reality is that if it is not of monetary or sentimental or any real value, you shouldn't be using this as an excuse to reach out to your ex-dumper. And if this is starting to play on your mind about what and where and how and why and maybe if you should be reaching out, this is why I say, if in doubt, don't reach out. But if you're not sure, then not reaching out is your best option because it is unlikely you can make things worse from that position. Now, there are always going to be caveats to the rule. This is where common sense does need to come into play. As I've mentioned about the work laptop, there could be other instances. Let's just say you were dumped for something because your ex-dumper believed you did something which you didn't do. And during the breakup, you didn't actually explain that you didn't do what they think you did. Let's just say that your ex thought that you cheated on them and you didn't. And yet during the breakup, you didn't say anything. You didn't deny it. You didn't explain it. Well, in this regard, there might be a good, valid reason to reach out to your ex and just say, hey, what you think I did, I didn't do. and here's the reasoning, here's the evidence, here's the whatever. That is necessary contact, right? Now, however, if during the breakup itself, you did explain why you didn't do what they are accusing you of, you did say your piece, you got it off your chest, maybe it's not about cheating or whatever it could be, maybe it's something you need to apologize for, and you did that, you've already done it. You don't need to keep reaching out to your ex-dumper further, apologizing more and more and more, as long as you've done it. So this is where the common sense comes into play. You must be thinking about this. Do I need to contact my ex-dumper for a necessary reason, or is it unnecessary? If you've already apologized, if you've already explained, if you've done everything you needed to do at the time of a breakup, you don't need to do it again. If, however, you haven't, then maybe there is scope for you to reach out. But this is where we come in. If in doubt, don't reach out. Because if you've got doubt, it suggests it's not cut and dry. It's not cut and dry. I need my work laptop. It's not cut and dry. I've been accused of something really bad. I didn't do it. And yet I've not told my ex I didn't do it. They actually think I did. Okay, that's cut and dry. That is obvious. That is logical. You need to say something. If, however, it is that pair of socks, okay, do you really need to reach out for that pair of socks? I'll tell you, no, you don't. But if you are wondering, maybe I do, maybe I don't, that is why it comes in. If in doubt, no, don't reach out. So unless it is absolutely obvious that you need to reach out, don't. Because otherwise, you are not respecting their decision. And this is point number one as a whole. This is what you need to understand. They have lost romantic emotional attraction for you. That's the reality. That's why they've ended the relationship. It hit the necessary low point, the action, the breakup. If you don't listen to what they are saying, i.e., I don't want to be in a relationship with you, if you're not listening to that, if you're doing the opposite, if you're chasing them, texting, calling, knocking on their door, not respecting their decision, they are not going to regrow attraction for you, which is what you need. If they've lost attraction, you need them to regrow it. If you instead don't listen, don't respect, do the opposite to what they request, you are going to be causing them to lose further attraction. You are going to annoy them, frustrate them, worry them, scare them. This is going to cause you even less opportunity to reconnect. They're already feeling a low level of attraction for you. If you behave this way, they will feel even less. We need the opposite. We need to change this around. We need them to grow attraction, not to lose it further. Because if it drops any lower, you're going to have zero chance of reconnecting. And that's why in point number one about if in doubt, don't reach out. It's because you are respecting their decision. So now let's get into point number two and the second point of today's podcast. Please give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number two is attraction grows in space. So today we're speaking about if in doubt, don't reach out. And point number two is really, really important. And that is that attraction grows in space. And as we've already said, your ex-dumper is sadly feeling a very low level of romantic emotional attraction for you. We need that attraction level to grow. We needed to hit the necessary high point for your ex-dumper to decide to reach out to you once more. So how do we grow attraction? Well, one of the best ways to do so is to understand the concept that attraction grows in space. I'm sure you've all heard of sayings and theories and things that people have probably told you in the past along the lines of distance makes the heart grow fonder. There are many sayings and expressions which basically mean the same, and there is truth to it. Distance allows us to understand what we are missing. Think of it from your own life. Right now, you are feeling this overwhelming desire for your ex-dumper. Now, why is this? Is it because you were so great together? Well, maybe you think so, but it is increased because they are no longer in your life. I would argue that you feel more attraction to your ex now than you did when you were together. Now, why is that? It's because they're not with you. They're not here. Attraction grows in space. Now, does this mean that in every single instance, you can get your ex back if you just implemented no contact and living your best life. Well, sadly, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time and nothing fails 100% of the time. But there are definitely things you can do to increase your chances. And creating space between you is certainly one of them. It's not a magic bullet because nothing is. But what it does do is allow your ex to imagine, see, and experience life without you, to really feel your absence. If you are texting, calling, knocking on their door, they are not feeling your absence. Even if you say, well, I only reach out once a month, your ex-dumper still knows you are there. You are their safety net. They know you're going to reach out every few weeks. It is no surprise when you do it again. What would be a surprise is if you stopped. This is why I suggest people implement my version of the no contact rule. Now, if you're not familiar with no contact, lots of people suggest you implement the no contact rule if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back. However, there are many different versions of the no contact rule that you can find online, and I believe that my version will give you the best possible chance of success. So I suggest that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell for notifications, and check out my playlist entitled The No Contact Rule. This is where you can fully immerse yourself in my version of a rule and understand why I believe it will give you that best possible chance of success. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is you can't chase someone towards you. So today we're speaking about if in doubt, don't reach out. If you're not sure if you should or you shouldn't, the best position is not to. Because in most instances, you can't cause further problems by moving into that no contact that I've just described. Now, there are always caveats and exceptions, and therefore speaking to me via my audio coaching service could be something you feel helpful. But ultimately, if you aren't really sure what to do, generally the safer option is not to reach out. Occasionally, it might not be the case, but in the vast majority of instances, it certainly is. When you consider what we've already spoke about, that if you do reach out, you're much more likely to annoy your ex-dumper because they're going to be believing that you're not listening, you're not respecting, and they're not going to be able to regrow attraction if you are always in their orbit. So this is why, if in doubt, don't reach out is a really good phrase to use and to think about and to remember. But when we consider point number 3, just consider you can't chase someone towards you. Imagine that as, whether it is a metaphor, an analogy, whatever you want to kind of view it as, just think about that. Can you chase someone towards you? If you chase someone, they're going to run further away. That is what happens most of the time. Now, this is something that you have to, again, use your common sense, think logically. Yes, it is important to say your piece at the time of a breakup. This is something which I always like to highlight. At the time of a breakup, you say your piece, you explain yourself, you apologize if necessary, you say how much you love your partner still at that point if they haven't quite actioned the breakup. You say everything you need to say. But if they still decide to end the relationship, at that point, this is when most of the time implementing my version of a no contact rule is your best move. If you still try to persuade, beg, plead your ex post-breakup, it is not going to help you. Now, there are those Caveats, like I said, maybe at the time of a breakup you didn't quite say everything you needed to say. Maybe, therefore, you could send a text saying those parts. But you've got to be honest with yourself. And during your blurred, confused mindset, you might start to convince yourself you have reason to reach out when you actually don't. When you don't, really think hard about what you said at the breakup. Don't try and invent a situation where you think, oh, there was one sentence I didn't say. Okay, unless it's absolutely necessary, you shouldn't be going back to it at this point. You shouldn't be trying to invent reasons to reach out. It's not going to help you. You're going to be chasing your ex-dumper further away with each piece of unnecessary contact. If it is necessary what you need to say, you keep it on point and you leave it there. You don't keep trying to get through the back door and reconnect with your ex through a side entrance, so to speak. You need to be letting them regrow attraction in the time that they need to, so it's authentic. Because otherwise, if you do somehow persuade your ex to temporarily get back with you, it will be just that. It will be temporarily. Because you might have a great way of speaking about things. Goodness, you might speak in a way which is manipulative, and that is certainly not what I would advise. But your dumper will come to the realization, whether it is days, weeks, months later, that actually this is built on sand. It's a relationship that is not built on strong foundations because they have been convinced to come back to you rather than them really feeling it. They need to feel it. You need them to regrow attraction, and that is why, if in doubt, don't reach out.